We're speaking today with Charlie Webster with his translation of the New Testament. You're about to publish the 21st Century New Testament. What's different about it?
Cody, there's so much that's so different about it. In our English language translations of the New Testament, there are traditions that have become part of the New Testament for over 1,000 years, and they're hard to get rid of. And many of those traditions are either unhelpful or flat out wrong. But because they're such strong traditions, they stay. Well, I was able to move away from that. I looked at the original documents and I understood the author's idea, and then I would put that idea into conversational English that anybody would understand. It would be just the way we talk. I wanted to tell the stories of the New Testament the way you and I would tell stories, so that people would get interested in it. In the first century, those documents were written in the language of the marketplace. I thought the New Testament today, in English, should be in the language of the marketplace.
Why would anyone want one more variation of the same material?
Well, it's not the same material because of the traditions that I'm taking out of it. And just so much has changed in the New Testament that it's almost like a whole new thing, except it brings out the real message of the New Testament that you can get from tradition, and it makes it plain and easy to see. My aim was so that folks who don't go to church and won't go to church would have something to read where they could find out they could still be on God's team and still be ministering as part of their Christianity and be on the right team. I wanted a translation that a person could pick it up and start reading it and immediately feel like this is something worth reading, and keep reading and get to the point where it's just, I can't wait to read some more.
Are you saying that a person cannot find God by following a traditional translation?
I can't say that because I did, of course, and anyone can, but it's so much harder to find the right message in the New Testament if you've got one of the traditional translations, and this one just makes it so much easier. And it's a simple message, it's a good message. Jesus called it the good news, and if you get it right, it is good news, it's great news. There are just three fundamentals, and if people can get those three fundamentals, they will have what they need.
So what are these fundamentals?
All right, the first one is and has to be faith that's faithful to God. Heaven would not work as a paradise for all eternity if there isn't one in charge of everything, and that's God. And if God took people to heaven who didn't have faith in Him, heaven would get ruined. So that's the first fundamental, and it's a necessity. The second fundamental is carrying love even for our enemies, carrying love for everyone. That's the kind of love that says, I see the need that you have, and I'm going to try to help. If one of the tools that I have is prayer, it's so powerful, I can use that anytime. But there are so many other ways I could help, and I want to help. The third fundamental is the motivation for the first two. What makes me want to put my faith in God? What makes me want to care for even my enemies? Well, what makes me want it is because I know that God has promised me that if I will do that, there is an eternal heaven that is so good. If you were to imagine the most wonderful, most exciting, most just challenging and filled with love place that you can imagine, you're far, far, far short of what the reality is. It is so much better than that.
How do you have the expertise in biblical Greek to do a better job than others have?
Well, actually, there are plenty of others who have more capability in biblical Greek than I do, but I dig at it, and I dig at it deep, and I go back to where the root of the word to try to understand the idea and communicate that in simple conversational English. When I went to college back in the 1960s, 2 years of my first degree, I had Greek, and I took the Greek award one of those years. I continued looking at the Greek because I realized the Greek provided a better view of Christianity than any of the English translations. And eventually I went back to school and got my Master of Arts in New Testament Studies with much more study of Greek. And I had a couple of other advantages over many of the translators. I had a secular job that paid well enough that I didn't have to depend on somebody else to provide the funds to do the job. And so I could do it the way I saw was right. So many times you have to stay with tradition in order to sell it. Well, I didn't think that was the case. I think this New Testament will sell in spite of the fact that it breaks all kinds of traditions. Then I had the other advantage of software. I've got software on my computer that lets me see 50 different translations of a passage in English, plus translations in Latin, translations in German, translations in Spanish, any language I want, Italian, it's all there. I can get the information from any translation in the world, practically, even Czechoslovakian. I got it. We've been talking about the 21st century New Testament. It's a really major improvement on an ability to understand what's in the message of the New Testament. If you want to learn more about it, you can go to a website, ncm-21.com, NCM for New Century Ministries, 21 for 21st Century. So ncm-21.com. You'll find much more information about the translation. You will find the entire glossary that goes with it available on that website, and you will find links to purchase the New Testament on that website.